boom, boom, ba, boom, boom, ba, boom, boom, ba. So, hello everyone again. Thank you so much for having me at Laracon India. It's actually my first time traveling to India, and so far it has been an amazing experience for me. So, thank you to all of you to making this such a special trip for me. My name is Michi. I'm a software engineer working at Sentry, and there I mostly work on our PHP and Go SDKs. I really like photography, and I'm generally interested in everything around aviation, so aircraft and stuff like that. Today we want to talk about the Go programming language. And Go is an amazing multi-purpose programming language, but I'm not here to tell you like that Go is like way better than PHP. Actually, quite the opposite. My aim today is to show you certain areas where Go can complement your PHP applications. When I first joined Sentry, I raised like an interest that at one day I might want to do a little bit of Go on the side. And then my manager back then was like, yeah, perfect, okay, here's the Go SDK, good luck, have fun. And I told him, but yeah, I never wrote any Go code so far in my life. And he was like, yeah, then I guess it's time to learn it. And that's what I did. So what is Go? Go is a high-level general purposing, Go is a high-level general purpose programming language, which is statically typed and compiled. It's really simple, like the language itself doesn't have a lot of fuss around. And it really aims to make like your life as a developer really, really easy by packing like a lot of useful things already in the standard library. So maybe that sounds familiar to you. So I deeply believe that Go is one of the most productive programming languages that we have out there. In the same spirit as Laravel is, right? Laravel is the most productive framework for web developers out there. Go is simple, fast, scalable, and quite frankly, a real joy to work with. So let's dive into the basics of Go and how it compares to PHP. So first, we need to install Go on our machine. So instead of heading over to php.new to install PHP, we would head over to go.dev and download the latest Go version. So you have to pick like which operating system you use. Go supports Windows, Linux, and macOS, and then also which CPU architecture you're using, like x86 or ARM. Of course, Go is also available in a plethora of different package managers, so you can also install it via brew, apt on Ubuntu, and so on and so forth. Once installed, we can check that everything works by running Go version, and that will just output the version we just installed. But you're not just installed like Go version, you actually also installed Pint. So in Go, this is called Go format, like a code style checker. That's built right into the language. You also installed pest already. So a Go test is already included by default, so you can test your code. You installed a compiler, Go build, so you can later compile your code into a binary. And you even have Laravel shift right built into Go, which is called Go fix. So it will scan your Go code for any deprecated functions or any usage of deprecated functions and will change it to the new world for you. And this is all coming just out of the box without installing anything else than Go itself. So Go has a really strong emphasis of installing like everything you might need out of the box. And some Go developers go even so far that they actually refuse to use any third-party libraries because they say everything is in the standard library. If it's not there, I build it myself. I don't want any dependencies. I personally, I don't care about this at all because for me, it's more important to get things done and to ship something. So let's write our first Go program together. We create a folder, and then in this folder we run our composer-cred project. In Go, you would run go mod init, and then the name of the application you're building. And this, in return, will then create your composer JSON, or how it's called in Go, the go.mod file. And this file will later allow you to install dependencies into your application. So that's how this file looks like. And it also mentions the minimum Go version your application can be compiled again. And here's something completely insane about Go. So the first version of Go was released in 2012-13. And to this day, the code you wrote 13 years ago still compiles with the latest version of Go. They made single breaking changes in the entire language. And this is just absolutely mind-blowing when you compare it to something like JavaScript, where you don't touch your project for half a year and then you come back to it and everything is broken. Of course, you might get deprecation warnings, but you can either ignore them or just run Go fix. So I really love this about Go, that you can build something today and you have like a really high level of confidence that it will still work in 6 months, in a year. Of course, the second Go 2 is released, they will make breaking changes. Okay, so we initialized our module, so now we need to create our index PHP file, our entry point to our application. In Go, that's called the main.go file. And in there, we will define a main function. And in our case, we will just echo hello Laracon India to the standard output. In Go's case, we use the format package and then the print line function. Yeah, and then we just run go run dot, so in the current directory, and it will output what we ask for. So pretty straightforward. Let's talk a little bit about the different types we have in Go. Let's define some variables. So we have integers, we have strings, and we also have arrays. So of course Go has much more types, but I picked them specifically because there's a nice comparison to PHP. The integer is actually just a shorthand because the Go compiler, depending if you are running a 32 or 64-bit version of an operating system, it will pick the correct integer for you out of the box. Let's have a closer look at arrays. What you're seeing here is actually quite verbose, right? Like the var keyword integer, you have to define the type. So the Go compiler is actually quite smart and can help you. So what you've seen before, you can also just write like this. Because Go has built-in type inference at compile time. So by defining the variable integer as 0 or any other integer, the compiler already knows it's an integer. So you don't need to tell it that it's an integer. Same happens with strings and all other types. So let's take a look at arrays. We defined an array which has a capacity of 3, so you can add 3 elements, but later on in the application you actually want to append a new element to your array. So that's a bit of a problem, because if you write this code, the compiler will yell at you that there is no append defined on the array type. So what could we do instead? We could use a slice. What's a slice? So arrays in Go have to have a strictly defined capacity at compile time. So when you use an array, you have to say, hey, it has a capacity of 3 elements, and that's it. But slices, on the other hand, they can dynamically grow. So the second you add more and more things to your array or remove them, the slice will just grow and shrink automatically out of the box. So you don't even have to think about it. You can just use slices and move on with your life. In PHP, we quite often use arrays in very interesting ways, I would say. So we might use strings as the keys, which every other developer would tell you, what the hell? What are you doing? And then, of course, we also mix our values because, hey, it's a dynamically typed programming language, so we can do this. How would you do something like this in Go, you might ask? We can use a map, first of all, because both arrays and slices, of course, only have integers as indices. So with a map, we can use whatever a key we define. But here we also have the problem that one element has a string value and the other element has an integer value. So Go has a nifty little feature, which is the interface type. So the interface in Go is actually like a real interface like it is in PHP. If you implement an interface, you can define certain methods. Your implementation then needs to provide to be compliant with the interface. But if you use an empty interface, then you don't really need to implement any methods because the interface doesn't implement any, right? Or asks for any. So the interface type with curly braces, it's just anything you want to pass in. And I think that's also how the Go developers thought about it, because like a few years ago, they actually changed interface to any. So no. And when you then look into the PHP array on the left and the Go map on the right, that's how you would do it. Let's take a quick look at Go functions. Writing a Go function is actually pretty straightforward. We use the func keyword, and then we give the function a name. A function in Go can accept from 0 to n arguments, but of course you need to tell what type the arguments are. And then you can either return nothing from a function, or you can return a value. But again, you need to type it. So in this case, we wrote a sum function, which is actually not part of the standard library. You might laugh, but well, it's really easy to write, so just do it yourself. So that's like the thought process of the people that created Go. It accepts two integers. We just add them up and return it. So that's all there is to writing functions in Go. Next, let's talk about concurrency. And this is like, I think, one of the coolest features of Go, not because it's actually like novel or new, right? Like a lot of programming languages have concurrency built in. But in Go, it's just once again so straightforward and simple to use. So a Go routine we use in Go to run stuff in parallel, so at the same time. And under the hood, a Go routine is just a lightweight thread, but the Go runtime manages it for us, right? So we don't care how many CPU cores we have. This is all like completely abstracted away from us. So let's say we want to download 3 files concurrently, so at the same time. In here, we define a slice with our 3 file names we want to download. Then we iterate over them and call our download function. The download function we wrote uses the standard library net HTTP package to make a HTTP GET request. So this is basically the HTTP facade from Laravel in Go. And as you may see, you have to perform quite a lot of heavy lifting in terms of error handling. So the request could fail, so you have to check for that. Reading the response body could fail, so you have to check for that. And then also later writing the file we just downloaded to disk could fail, so we have to check for that. So yes, this is really verbose, but I actually quite like it because reading this code is super straightforward. There's no hidden magic anywhere. You have like zero mental overhead reading and more importantly understanding this code. So this is also like one of the core principles of Go. The code that you write is really, really easy to understand. Might not be the most elegant, but at least it's simple. If we run this code, kind of nothing happens. So what is going on here? What we are doing here is like kind of a fire and forget Go routine. So our program starts in the main function. Then we create 3 Go routines in our loop. But as soon as we created these Go routines, the program immediately exits because we are at the end of the main function, and that's when a Go program just starts running. So we have to tell Go, hey, please wait until we're done with downloading the files. And the way you do this in Go is, sorry. So okay. So the way you do this in Go is you can use a so-called wait group. A wait group tells Go, hey, please wait until all elements of this wait groups are completed. So in our case, we create a wait group with a delta of 3 files because that's the many files we want to download. And then we pass this wait group into our 3 Go routines we create. In our download method, we then defer the wait group to the end and signal it to be done. So the defer keyword in Go, what it does, it defers the statement behind it to when the surrounding function actually returns something. So it runs at the end. And by doing this, when we run the program now, you can see we are downloading 3 files, and then when we check on our file system, they are actually there. You may also notice that these files are not being downloaded in the right order, right? It downloads file 1 first, then 3, then 2. But that's totally to be expected, right? We wanted to run 3 downloads at the same time in parallel. So there's, of course, no guarantee that they are downloaded in the right order. So if this is something you care about, you would need to solve this in a different way. So far, I have given you like a quick intro into Go. So let's touch on some areas where Go can actually enhance your PHP applications. This is some quote I found on, no, not a quote, that's some message I found on Reddit. And the last part really resonates well with me. Laravel and Symfony just provide too much convenience to throw away for performance when we don't even need it. So my personal opinion about this whole topic is that you just use Go very strategically across your application stack. Maybe you need to process like millions over millions of files. Write a small Go program for that. I'm not saying that you can't write this in PHP, quite the opposite. Of course, it's possible. But Go, just by being statically compiled and running like at a much, much lower level than PHP runs, is just so much faster. And of course, you could also use something like Octane, like FrankenPHP's Swool Roadrunner. But again, this then adds something, like, in my opinion, too much complexity to something as simple as PHP. At Sentry, I'm running a small Slack app called GitPotato. So this is an appreciation application where you can give your coworkers kudos. And the majority of this app is actually written in PHP. But there was one part where I actually had a bit of troubles. So the way Slack application works are that Slack sends you a webhook whenever a certain event happens. So in the case of GitPotato, I'm actually listening to a message was sent to a channel. This is a lot of messages. And you have to respond in under 2 seconds to this HTTP request with a 200, else Slack will consider that failed and just send it all over again. So I just built like a really small Go application, like some sort of ingestion proxy that accepts the message, spawns a Go routine, puts the message in there, and immediately returns 200. So Slack is happy. And then I do quite a lot of heavy computation. So I normalize the event. I might reach out to the Slack API to make some other, to hydrate the message even more. And then I pass it on via HTTP to my PHP application. Of course, I could have just used a queue in PHP, right? Like, or in Laravel even. But then I have to run a queue instead of just a super simple Go application. Hosting a Go application or bringing it to production can't be more simple. So this is everything I needed to do in terms of Docker to run a Go binary. Like, this is nothing. Tiny, simple, straightforward. And that's what I really, really like about it. And when it comes to performance, I mean, this is crazy, right? Like, my P50 request latency is 5 milliseconds. And when we look at the P99, that's 9 milliseconds. And I had to do nothing to get this fast of an application. Like, the Go code I actually wrote in GitPotato is actually really shit. Like, it's completely unoptimized. I just wrote whatever I thought might work, and it actually works. So, of course, at one point, you will also run into like scalability issues with Go, but at such a high traffic level that you can be really happy that you have this problem. Because if you have so much traffic, then you are running a really popular or successful application, and then you will also run into a lot of different problems than just the performance of your programming language. And lastly, and lastly, always remember to choose the right tool for the job. Laravel has such a rich ecosystem, so choose Go kinda carefully. If you want to build authentication, template rendering, beautiful UIs, DB accessive, eloquent, just use the tool you use today and already love. All right, now comes the fun part. Let's do some live coding. So let's get situated quickly. All right, let's create a quick web application that returns some JSON. The first thing we need to do is create a new a directory where we can put our Go code in, and let's call it just HTTP something. All right, and then we need to run compose a create project, or in Go's case, go mod init, and let's call this thing Go HTTP something. Awesome. Let's open up in our trusty editor, and then we create a new file, the main Go file. We need to give our package a name, like that's similar or roughly similar to a namespace, and we can just use main for now, and then write our main function. Cool. So we kind of want to define our routes as we would do in our web.php file in Laravel or our API PHP file. And one way to do this in Go is once again to use the net.http package. So we can write a so-called handler function. Yeah, just by using it, it will automatically be imported. And then this function expects certain parameters. So the first is our pattern. Let's make this route the default one, so we just pass in slash. Next, it expects an anonymous function with a response writer. So this is the thing where we write our response to, and a reference to a request. It's quite common in Go to use one letter named variable names. You can think of that what you want. I personally don't like it, but everyone does it, so I just embrace it. So we have our response writer, and then we put in a reference to our HTTP request. All right. Let's set the correct header now, because we need to tell the browser that we're actually serving JSON. So on the response writer, we just access the header function, and then we can just set a header. And in our case, we want to set content type, and this will be application JSON. Cool. Oh, it wants a comma. Cool. So let's now define our response. So we create a new map for that, as we did before. We will key it by strings. And then we use our trusty any keyword. So let's pass in a message. Hello, world. And I know you shouldn't do this, but that's just for the sake of demo. We also return a status code. Of course, we would just use the one in the HTTP header. All right. So next, we have to use JSON encode. In Go, that's a little bit more involved. So the function we are using might error, so we have to catch this. So we use the JSON package and then create a new encoder. And then we pass in our response writer, and then we encode our response. If the error, so this runs, and then if there's an error and the error is not nil, for now let's just return. We don't care. Cool. That's kind of it for this function handler. And then we have to listen and serve. So here we can choose to expose a certain port on our computer, and we don't care about errors. Good. So that should work in theory. Let's see if it actually does. So we run go run dot. Okay, doesn't complain. Let's open our browser. And we get a response. Hey, very good. Okay, let's add a new function handler that returns the current time. So we create a new route /time, and instead of a message, let's just return the time. Everything time related is already built in Go again. So we can just use time now. It gets automatically imported, and that's all we need. But now we have to do something that really annoys me. We have to stop the application, compile it, okay, so it works, but that's annoying. Okay, so what can we do? So one of the really big difference of Go to other programming languages is that the compiler is actually also written in Go. And when the compiler was created, they made a lot of sacrifices to make this thing blazingly fast. Like if you ever touched Rust, which uses LLVM, Rust takes a while to compile. Like Go is blazingly fast, but of course it doesn't support so many different backends. So there's something, a tool called Air. Let's quickly install it. Well, it's actually already installed, but let's init it in our application. So we call Air init. So it created like a config file, and now I can run Air. Good, so let me bring up my code. I think I have to stop this first, so just to make sure. Okay, good. So let's make a change here. Let's say instead of hello world, we say hello Laracon India. Let's save it, and let's go here to our route. Wait, it says Laracon India. And what about we add something here like foo bar. Save it, go there, and now it's there. And that's just amazing, because now I have the exact same workflow I have in PHP. I save my file, it gets recompiled, and can just refresh the browser. All right, that's all I had for you today. Thank you very much, and see you later. Okay, here's my quick Steve Jobs moment. There is one more thing. Yesterday we announced that Sentry will do a raffle, and thank you very much for the tremendous response to this raffle. We got closely to 500 participants, and I thought it's just quite fitting to pick the winners live on stage with a Go program. This Go program was created like 2 hours ago with the help of Cursor, so fingers crossed that it actually works. Okay, so the Go program basically just reads the CSV I downloaded from Google Forms and picks 3 random winners. So let's run it. And there are your 3 winners. If you're here, please come onto stage to get your prizes. Thank you, everyone.
All right. So, how was it? Did you have a good time?
Yeah.
And how was your first time in India?
Amazing. I love the food. I love the energy. Yeah, I really trying to not resist it, as we were told, and no, so far having a really good time. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you for being awesome. So you have more than like 37, 38 questions so far. But one of the question, I think, can I have Chintan Dave? If he has a lot of questions about LAN and all, GoLAN and all, but this question is how Go can be companion for PHP or frameworks like Laravel.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, like pick a workload that would normally be either really hard to implement in PHP, like maybe it requires you to add a lot of additional infrastructure. I mean, the solution could also be just run on Laravel Cloud because you get everything out of the box there. But not everyone runs on cloud, right? So maybe pick a good workload there, or something that needs to be really fast, right? Yeah. There's not really a good rule where to pick. I would just avoid in general any things that Laravel does very well, right? Because Go can also be a little bit of
Great.
Okay. So I was talked into doing this because in Denmark, I brought. So this is a so-called fingerboard, like it's a tiny skateboard, and I'm really nervous about doing this, more nervous than my talk. So I will try a kickflip. Let's.
Yeah, you can do a cheer for him. Wow. Oh. Perfect.